Commencing roll call now. Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado.
Here.
Councilmember Beatriz Cedillo. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez.
Present.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz.
Here.
Vice Chair Blair Whitney.
Here.
Councilmember Gabriela Eke. Councilmember Selani Curencita.
Present.
Chair Brooks-Esser.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is AB 361 resolution for conduct of meetings via teleconference. On September 16, 2021, the governor signed AB 361, a bill that formalizes and modifies the teleconference procedures implemented by California public agencies in response to the governor's executive orders addressing Brown Act compliance during shelter-in-place periods. AB 361 allows local governments to continue to conduct virtual meetings as long as there's a gubernatorially proclaimed public emergency in combination with adopted findings that meeting in person will present risks to health. Thus, a resolution is required to invoke these provisions of AB 361, and it's found that conducting in-person meetings would present imminent risks to health and safety of attendees. As a practical matter, in the absence of a resolution, teleconferencing participants who need to post their locations on the agenda and open their homes to any members of the public who wish to attend. The resolution allows the teleconferencing participants to participate as they have since March of 2020. Do we have any questions from council members with regard to the need for an AB 361 resolution? Hearing none, is there any public comment? With no public comment, I'll entertain a motion to adopt provisions of AB 361 for the purposes of this meeting.
Move to approve.
Second that motion. We need a roll call vote for this, please.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado.
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Cedillo. Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz.
Yes.
Vice Chair Blair Whitney.
Yes.
Councilmember Gabriela Eke. Councilmember Selani Curencita.
Yes.
Chair Brooks-Esser.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next agenda item is public comment. Anyone may speak up to 2 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda. For those physically in attendance, I'll ask that you fill out a speaker slip. People online simply use the raise hand function within Zoom. Please note that the council cannot discuss or take action on any items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment in the room? Hearing none. Diana, do we have public comment via Zoom?
A brief announcement, we do have an interpretation line that our Spanish interpreter will assist us with. The phone number is 1-877-568-4106. And the code to enter is 877-394-869 #. And Victor, would you like to provide this instruction in Spanish?
Gladly. I can't seem to turn my camera on, but that's okay. Through the chair. Buenas noches a todos ustedes. Les queremos dejar saber que esta reunión será interpretada en español. Para poder acceder al canal de audio en esta junta y escucharlo en español, llame al 1-877-568-4106 y después va a introducir la clave, que es el 877-394-869 con el símbolo de número. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
I believe we do have one public comment online.
Proceed then with the public comment.
Kent, we will grant you the access to speak. You will have 2 minutes. Go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, esteemed council. I am so excited to share with you and the public that the North Fair Oaks Healthy Community Mural Project has launched, working together with the County Office of Arts and Culture, the Arts Commission of San Mateo County, and Cultural Collective of North Fair Oaks. We have officially launched the survey, which will ask the community what are the characteristics that they would define as determinative of a healthy community. From that survey, we will provide that data to the artists that are selected to present proposals, and they will then present to the public their ideas for the 16-panel Healthy Community Mural Project that will span the pedestrian walkways under the Fifth Avenue pedestrian pathway. I thank you for your support to date. I encourage the public, yourselves, everyone in our community to be involved in that survey. And if anybody at this point is interested in taking that survey, you may do so online at ccnfo/mural. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken. Is there any other public comment?
There seems to be no public comment this time. Back to you, Chair.
Next agenda item is a recommendation, a request to the Board of Supervisors support for fixing SMC, a group who's advocating for a Sheriff's Department Civilian Oversight Committee and Inspector General. That presentation is going to be given by Jim Lawrence, Paul Bocanegra, Trina Patton, and Becca Keeler of fixing SMC. The floor is yours, folks. I'm not sure who is going to speak first on this.
I'll go first.
Oh, you're gonna go, Jim? Or you
Yes.
want me to- Okay.
Okay. Honorable Chair, members of this council, thank you for allowing us to join your meeting tonight. Again, my name is Jim Lawrence. I'm the chair of the board of Fixing San Mateo County. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit 501c4 organization. One mission, representing all residents of San Mateo County. We want to convince the Board of Supervisors to install a civilian oversight board and Inspector General's office for our San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. To that end, we have recommended to the board to use their legislative authority given to them via Assembly Bill 1185 to install this board. Now, let me put this request in context to you. We live in a democracy. All of our elected leaders have checks and balances. Our President Biden, Governor Newsom have the Congress, the Senate, and Supreme Court. Even my local police chief, Tracy Avalar, she has a city manager and city council. However, our county sheriff does not have any ongoing checks and balances. He reports to and answers to no one. Yes, he's elected every 4 years, but so is our president and our governor and our council members. With the installation of this oversight board, all residents of San Mateo County will gain transparency into this vital governmental function. Remember, we invest $300 million of taxpayer money into this organization every year. Let me repeat that. $300 million is spent by the Sheriff's Office every year. More importantly, though, this change, once implemented, will bring about community trust of those we've given the right to enforce our laws. Remember, they're sworn to protect and serve in a fair and impartial manner all residents of San Mateo County. Honorable members of the council, Fixing San Mateo County has invested a little more than a year into this effort, and we've made some measurable progress I'd like to share with you. One, our endorsements. If you visit our webpage, span from the highest local elected leaders that we have. Anna Eshue, Jackie Spear, Kevin Mullen, just to name a few, as well as all our elected council members in many of the cities. Our Board of Supervisors, the President, Honorable President Horsley, has agreed to form a subcommittee to address and study this recommendation. The Board of Supervisors, Honorable Slocum, has agreed to support this resolution also. Our newly elected Sheriff, Christina Corpus, supports our efforts 100%. Just recently, the Half Moon Bay City Council voted to endorse us and sent a resolution to the board outlining their support. Hundreds of residents have signed up and given their support. In summary, we are requesting you also to join us in representing your community and requesting the board to use their legislative authority to install a civilian oversight board and IG office. Now, I will turn this over to Trina Patton because I know, like you, we love facts and figures. And Trina will take you through a few of ours. Following that, we're going to ask one of our former board members, the Honorable Paul Bocaneer, to also share some thoughts with you about our mission. Trina?
Thank you. I'm going to be sharing my screen. If I can actually find what. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Very good, thank you so much. And again, my name is Trina Patton, and I am the outreach work group lead for Fix in San Mateo County. And I thank you for your time today and listening to our presentation. As Jim said, we are grassroots, founded by local activists in May of 2021. We have a very active volunteer corps, incorporated as a 501c4. And so the big question generally is, why do we need oversight? And as Jim pointed to earlier, oversight will protect civil rights. It manages risks for the cities and counties. It builds bridges between law enforcement and the community, ensures greater accountability, and it also supports effective policing practices. This is not an idea to be a thorn in the side to law enforcement. It's actually an idea to support law enforcement and the communities that they serve. So what we would like to do is to establish an effective community-based sheriff oversight board and inspector general, both with subpoena power to address complaints, investigate issues, and to make policy and practice suggestions. We have found in our research that it is not a civilian oversight board without subpoena power doesn't cut it. They need subpoena power in order to get the information needed to address complaints or to investigate issues. And so the idea is to develop a robust community campaign to persuade the Board of Supervisors to use their legislative authority to pass an ordinance. They do have the authority to pass an ordinance enacting civilian oversight. And so our data shows us from the Department of Justice that people of color are at the greatest risk of arrest. Black people are 9 times more likely than white people to be arrested in San Mateo County, and Hispanic people are 2 times more likely than white people to be arrested. From our sheriff's data portal from July to September of 2021, Hispanics are 49% of the arrests, but 25% of the population, while Blacks are 2% of the population, and this is of the county, but have 13% of the arrests. And then from January to March 2022, you can see the statistics there. Hispanics, 25% of the population, 45% of the rest, and Blacks, 2% of the population, 13% of the arrests. People of color as well are more at greater risk of death when interacting with the Sheriff's Department. We know that in 2018, officers in San Mateo County used tasers to kill 3 unarmed people of color. And despite 19 use of force deaths, no officers in San Mateo County have ever been charged with any wrongdoing during this current DA's tenure. In the 5-county Bay Area, although Black people are less than 7% of the population, they were 27% of the people killed by police from 2015 to 2020. Another issue we had with our sheriff, though last November he decided to stop, was that you can see from this chart here, San Mateo County was handing over people to ICE at a rate greater than all of the other counties, all of our surrounding counties. San Mateo County had 26 encounters where they turned over people to ICE, with Alameda being the next greatest at 8, and most of the counties at 0. But again, in November last year, after a great deal of public outcry for a number of years, former sheriff decided to stop handing people over to ICE. Cities that already have civilian oversight, there are 25 cities and counties in California that already have oversight, and they include Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Sonoma. And the state law that gives the subpoena power to civilian oversight boards and inspector generals is state law AB 1185. It gives the power, but it doesn't create the boards and the offices. That is for the counties or the cities to do. So for us, civilian oversight looks like a community-based board. There's a professional inspector general. Both are appointed by the county board of supervisors, and both would have subpoena power. We envision the board composition would look something like 11 community members. They're impartial, they're knowledgeable, they're committed. It's a diverse group, a group that more accurately looks like the county, and they have some lived experience. There would be public meetings, because one of the issues with our current sheriff is that there's no transparency. We don't know how the money is being spent. We don't know what's going on in the department. We do know recently that the sheriff sent 4 deputies to Indiana on a private matter. And that's only because it was reported on the news. But generally, the citizens of San Mateo County have no idea what's going on. So there would be monthly public meetings. There would be community outreach and listening sessions. There would be the opportunity for the board to receive and investigate any complaints and incidents. And that includes negative as well as positive, because again, we do envision this as a partnership, not necessarily an adversarial relationship. Again, the board would have subpoena powers, and they would review and recommend policy and make public reports. The inspector general position would be a trained professional. They would investigate complaints, including excessive force, deaths in custody, and track any racial profiling trends with subpoena power, and also would review and recommend policy and make public reports. In order to have a very strong civilian oversight board, they need to be independent. It can't be friends of people in the sheriff department or the board of supervisor. It needs to be an independent body with strong subpoena power. The oversight board would reflect the diversity of the community. There should be consistent support from the board of supervisors. And we expect that if they enact this ordinance, that there would be support from the board, because it's to everybody's benefit to have this be a positive experience for law enforcement as well as the community. It needs to have adequate funding. It needs to have the ability to take complaints directly from residents and not have the residents go through the sheriff's department. And there would be access to data and records. Some success stories of civilian boards in other places include Denver and New Orleans and Newark, New Jersey. Denver reports that they had a drop in use of force incidents of 21%. The violent crime rate fell 8% after their monitor's office was launched. And they've shown strong support from their politicians and government leaders. In New Orleans, they formed the Use of Force Review Board. The release of body cam footage from officers are required to be shown within 10 days. And officer-involved shootings went down from 20 in 2012 to 9 in 2019. And in Newark, New Jersey, you can see that they have a very engaged community. They had some peaceful protests over George Floyd's death, and their department requires now de-escalation training. But even with problems, because nothing is perfect, oversight still has impact. And in Sacramento County, we have discovered that the sheriff was blocking the inspector general from entering the jail, and that incident helped to motivate the passage of AB 1185. And in Santa Clara County, the sheriff's resistance to cooperating with oversight has led to felony charges. Oversight is important and can do a lot, but there's absolutely limits. It can provide some transparency and accountability through public reports to the supervisors, the public, and the sheriff, but it can't tell them what to do. It can't set policy. It can't discipline or fire deputies. That still would remain in the purview of the sheriff. So where do we go from here? What we're looking for is we want to do outreach to city councils, community groups, labor groups, businesses, the faith community, to educate people about what a civilian oversight board is and help build support. We have found when we explain what we're looking for, what we want to do, that people definitely think that it's a good idea. We're looking for endorsements from different city council members and other elected officials, and we are working actively with the Board of Supervisors to finalize an ordinance enacting oversight that the board can adopt. From North Fair Oaks, we would like, if possible, a letter of support or a resolution in support of this ordinance to the Board of Supervisors. And also, if this is something you all can do and agree with, we would love to be able to add you all to our website as supporters as well. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we will answer questions if you have any. I do believe Paul Bocanegra is going to speak about oversight as well. And Paul, as soon as I can figure out how to move my screen, I will do that. Okay.
I could begin while you figure that out, if you'd like, Trina.
There, oh, stop share. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. Buenas tardes, mi gente here in North Fair Oaks community. It's an honor to be here. My name is Paul Bocanegra. I wear a couple of different hats in the community. I live here in Redwood City, Eagle Hill. I am part of the reentry community that came home in 2017. Also a survivor of the school to prison pipeline. I was 17 years old when I was condemned to die in the cage by life without parole, plus 4 years. I served over 25 and a half years before reform to our juvenile criminal justice system through Senate Bill 9, deemed to condemning children with no way out to unconstitutional, which gave me a second opportunity to transition back and reintegrate into my community. I came home in 2017, saw that nothing had changed with the school to prison pipeline. If anything, it had become more aggressive upon our people. And I'm not here to give people a lesson on aggressive policing because we've seen the numbers. The data doesn't lie. We're talking about in the last couple of months, more than 50% of arrests, 49% of the arrests here in our county are people of color. We make up 25% of the population, but it says we make up half of the population of incarceration. I'm a juvenile justice delinquency prevention commissioner for the county of San Mateo, and I can assure you that 95% of our children in juvenile hall are raza, are Hispanics. It is extremely disturbing to me that we have this aggressive policing taking place on the next generation, absolutely obliterating the future of our children. Again, the data doesn't lie. I'm not here to talk about aggressive policing, but I'm here to talk about aggressive policies. This civilian oversight, as a victim of the criminal justice system myself, as an advocate for reform of the system myself, as a community member, as a representative of the largest incarcerated population here in San Mateo County, I am urging mi gente here in North Fair Oaks to support civilian oversight. We are the most aggressively policed, the most aggressively incarcerated, the most aggressively fostered children in San Mateo County. I believe that we deserve a voice on how we are being policed here. And by the data of the deportations here in the entire Bay Area, it is absolutely disgraceful to see one of our own gentrifying our gente to another country. As we speak today, the policy in our juvenile probation is, it is legal to deport a youth who is an immigrant who has committed a crime here. These are the policing tactics that are being used to harm our people, and civilian oversight is an adequate and a respectful response to the policing that is taking place of our gente here in San Mateo County. If we are the most aggressively policed, we should also be the most aggressively voices asking for different policies on policing us and our children. We need to support this here. Again, this gives us a voice. This council has the ability to be that voice and to be that beacon for all my gente that is in a cage right now as we speak, that are our kids that are in the foster system and in cages as we speak. 55% of our children are beyond county lines in the foster system. Bring our children home. Again, this gives us a voice at the table. I don't have to go over it and over of what's happening to our gente. The data doesn't lie. The desegregation of the data only shows that we are under attack here, and that we must urge our Board of Supervisors to support a resolution instilling civilian oversight over the Sheriff's Department, a partnership, giving us a say on how we should be policed, on how we should be arrested, on how we should be restored, and how we should be treated here. I also urge the writings of a letter to our city council and ask them to be our voice to the higher ups in our county to support civilian oversight. So again, if you have any questions, it is a blessing to be here amongst my gente. And before I leave, I would just like to say that there are many kids being arrested for riding their bikes downtown in our public square where we pay taxes as well. Children of color coming out during the pandemic from these dark underserved communities to utilize public space, and they're being arrested right now at an alarming rate. But I went to a North Fair Oaks community last weekend, and I seen the very police that are arresting us riding their mountain bikes in a festival filled with older women and children and families. My wife had to move out of the way of these sheriffs that were riding their bicycles. And at the same time, we were arresting children for slowing down traffic. Absolutely disrespectful to our raza. And I think that this is a very first step towards asking and demanding for more respect and more say on how we're treated in this community. Thank you so much. And I look forward to working with this council in the future.
Thank you, Paul. I'd just like to close out really quickly and then turn over for questions. Thank you, Chairman Esser and Vice Chair Whitney and council members. My name's Becca Keeler. I was born and raised here in San Mateo County, and I have been a homeowner here in North Fair Oaks for the last 16 years, which, as you know, is under our Sheriff's Department. And I happen to be the daughter of a former Menlo Park police officer. I know how important it is for law enforcement and the community to be in communication with each other. That is something that I watched my father build. I know times have changed, but I know that it's possible to build that, and I know how valuable it is. That's one of the main reasons I became involved with Fix in San Mateo County. I truly believe that all of us, including the Sheriff's Department, need oversight. Many of us don't like it. I understand why that is also. We all want to be on our own, but that's not a good policy. As Jim pointed out, everybody else does have oversight. Our sheriff needs oversight too. And not only do they need it, will that make them stronger, but it will give the community much more faith in them. And that's something that's really important. So I want to thank you again for inviting us tonight. I and my North Fair Oaks community ask for your support or endorsement for community oversight for our county. Thank you so much. And I think now we can open it up for questions.
What questions do we have from members of the council? Address them to any of the presenters, please.
I do have a question, and it is going back a little bit to the statistics that you presented when mentioning the 19 deaths by use of force, where no officers were charged. And my question is, would the citizen oversight extend to the district attorney's office? Because at least in this particular case, as I understand it from the statistic cited there, it was the district attorney who I guess did not charge any of the officers, and separated from the citizens oversight for the sheriff's office, which I think is a good idea. I'm wondering if this would, if this citizens oversight would affect the DA's office in any way.
I'll take that on. I think that's a very good question. The oversight will be of the sheriff's office. However, with the inspector general, a professional legal person will be able to do, review the investigation and make recommendations. And he could make that recommendation to the attorney general that he needs to take a second look at this case. If he doesn't agree, if he finds additional facts that weren't considered, that may change the outcome of that. What happens in the past is no one has a chance to even review the information and make any type of recommendations. It's solely between the sheriff's office and the district attorney, and all we get is we decide not to charge the individual. We don't know why, what the evidence was, how did it point out, how did it weigh out. That's what the oversight board would give us.
Okay, thank you.
Are there additional questions from council members? Vice Chair Whitney, please. Go ahead.
It's a comment, it's not a question. I support the concept. The state legislature supports the concept because you got the assembly bill. And I know that we have a lot of contract cities where the sheriff's department is the police department. San Carlos, Half Moon Bay, North Fair Oaks, which is the most urbanized unincorporated pocket. Burlingame. There's a bunch of those spots.
Millbrae.
Yeah, and in Santa Clara County, they have the same situation where there's certain contract cities. I grew up in San Jose, and there was a real knockdown drag out for a police auditor, but they got one, and it may have made a difference. In San Mateo County, I don't think we have the worst law enforcement in the country, And you only need 3 out of 5 members of the Board of Supervisors to vote for this to make it happen. And I'm pretty sure people are probably gonna support you. Don't be so zealous that you turn people off. This is like a tear down attack on everyone and everything about the county institution. There's problems. Legislature says we can have an oversight board, no problem. If there's a resolution, which I do see you have a sample resolution, I'll vote to support it. But don't get so zealous that, this is an attack, that everything is horrible and needs to be, examined. I think they're suffering from understaffing. And there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of disturbing currents back and forth. The kids with the bikes, guns being found. People are just concerned about themselves, their neighbors, healthy schools, making a better community, making the best of what we have, which sometimes is a hard lot in life, but we're just living paycheck to paycheck, paying our rent. So yeah, I would vote to support a resolution recommending that the Board of Supervisors enact the oversight board as authorized by the state. But I want to make sure that we just tone it down a little bit where, well, whatever. I share my feelings. I'll stop talking.
Do we have questions from council members?
Can I have a second question?
Please go ahead.
I'm wondering if your organization fixing SMC, what role would the organization have in the oversight? Would it be the leading organization, or what is the role that the organization would have?
Very good question. Fiction will not participate and will not be on the board. The board of supervisors has the authority to appoint all members. We will not make recommendations. We may make a few suggestions as to how it should be outlined, but the ultimate responsibility is with the board. We're only bringing it to the board's attention and trying to convince them to move forward with the power that the state assembly has given them for this oversight board. But once this is done, Fixing San Mateo County will no longer be involved with it.
Understood. Thank you.
Additional questions from council members?
One more question. As I'm looking at the letter that was drafted, possibly to be sent to the Board of Supervisors and support, I am seeing that the letter is addressed to Supervisor Don Horsley rather than the full Board of Supervisors. I'm wondering if that was a purpose and if the letter should be addressed to the Board of Supervisors in general.
Well, I think the protocol is to address it to the president, but we can easily change that and include all names of the supervisors. Yes.
Yeah.
I will actually draft it. So that I believe, as Jim mentioned, that we do address it to the president.
So that explains it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions from council members? I have a couple just mechanical questions, if you will. First one is, why is it necessary for the civilian board to have subpoena power in addition to the inspector general? Can you kind of explain that relationship and why it's necessary for both the civilian panel as well as the inspector general to have subpoena power?
The civilian board will actually be the front line for citizens' complaints. In order to be truly effective and actually review information from the sheriff's office, in the past, as you know, they have not been cooperative. So therefore, the existing civilian oversight boards have the subpoena power, so they can also review this information. It may be a complaint that can be resolved between the Citizens Oversight Board and the sheriff and the complainant without going to the inspector general. Yeah.
Okay, understand. There's a lot of variety in the 9 Bay Area counties in terms of civilian review of sheriffs, in terms of just the solutions that are being proposed. San Francisco, for example, I believe left it to the voters who approved a civilian review board, inspector general, both of whom have subpoena power. The Board of Supervisors of Contra Costa County recently rejected a proposal for a civilian oversight board. And what they did was require the sheriff's department to present quarterly to the full Board of Supervisors. So each quarter, the board gets a direct update from the sheriff's office on its activities, metrics, that sort of thing. Can you give a little detail as to why that might not work in San Mateo County and why you feel a civilian oversight board as well as an inspector general is necessary in our particular county?
The shortcoming of the Contra Costa County decision leaves it in the sheriff's hands. There's still no avenue for complaints, whatever, without going through the sheriff's department. So it's still no checks and balances on the sheriff. He immediately presents a report every quarter. You know, the citizens have no say so, et cetera. So I don't really see it moving towards solving the problem as an effective civilian oversight board, civilian power, with subpoena power.
I see. The other kind of mechanical question that I had was, to an extent, the sheriff is overseen by the state attorney general. And I think we've seen an illustration of kind of the demonstration of the process for that in all of the Batmobile investigation. I'm sure you're aware. Can you give me a sense of why that isn't sufficient and kind of weigh the civilian oversight in the context of being able to go to the state attorney general in cases like that?
It's my understanding that this is the first time in 10 years that the state attorney general has divulged into review a sheriff's matter of a county. So this is only because it was one out of state, the amount of press that it's getting, and the supervisors decided that they wanted a really unbiased look at this situation. They don't have it today. With civilian oversight, you would get an unbiased review.
I believe that's all the questions from the council. Do we have any public comment?
Through the chair, I believe we did have Councilmember Jennifer Reese who wanted to share a comment or question.
Please, Jennifer, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I strongly believe that this is very needed, and such communities like ours, we are growing communities. We have a lot of people that have been oppressed, a lot of people that fear the sheriffs. So a relationship that would help, connect the community and law enforcement. I think this is great. And oversight is definitely needed for any and maybe all cases. I mean, there's some issues that I have seen and witnessed in the community, and I have definitely seen law enforcement force, and some community members are just scared to speak to law enforcement or want to run away or don't have like the willpower to come forward when certain situations are happening. So by civilian oversight, I think that is a great way to connect and to build a stronger community without fear and without oppression. So it was just a comment. I really like the concept.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ruiz. Do we have any public comment, Diana?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 4, request Board of Supervisors support for fixing SMC, please raise your hand now if you are on Zoom, and then we will follow with public comment in person. Please bring your speaker card up to the clerk during this time. There's no public comment on the line. Victor, do we have any Spanish public comment?
Thank you, Deanna. Through the chair, there's none at the moment.
I believe we do not have any public comment at this time. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Well, as Mr. Lawrence referred to earlier, there is a draft letter that was distributed with the agenda for the meeting this evening, addressed to Supervisor Horsley in his role as president of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. It's very brief. It reads as follows. The North Fair Oaks Community Council voted on August 25th, 2022 to send this letter of support for the efforts of fixing San Mateo County and request that the board consider the establishment of a civilian oversight board and Inspector General Office for the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and that's signed by myself as chair of the North Fair Oaks Community Council. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the sending of that letter to President Horsley and the Board of Supervisors.
I second that motion.
So I need someone to make the motion
I
first.
would move to approve the letters as drafted, letter of support.
Second that motion.
Second, we need a roll call for this, Diana.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Rio,
Yes.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Blair Whitney,
Yes.
Councilmember Gabriela Eke, Councilmember Solani Perecita,
Yes.
Chair Brooks Esser,
Yes.
motion passes.
Well, thank you very much to all those from Fixin SMC who came and presented tonight. I'm sure we're going to all watch the actions of the board on this as it moves through the process. So thank you very much for all of your work bringing this to our attention.
Thank you on behalf of Fix.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
And I-
Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Next item on the agenda is a recommendation, consideration of a non-conforming use permit pursuant to section 6135 to legalize a 120 square foot addition to an existing two-story single-family residence on non-conforming parcel. The room addition proposes an 11-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is required, and a 2-foot 7-inch left side yard where 5 feet is required on a substandard 2,500 square foot size parcel located at 509 Stanford Avenue in North Fair Oaks. No tree removal, no grading is proposed. Presentation is going to be made by Olivia Boo of the Planning and Building Department. Olivia, the floor is yours. Where do I see Summer Burris?
Hello. Hi, Chair Esser, council members. My name's Summer Burleson. I'm a senior planner with the San Mateo County Planning and Building Department, and I will be presenting this item on behalf of the project planner, Olivia Boo. She had an unanticipated event come up that she was not able to make it tonight. So I will go ahead and share my screen. And is this visible?
Yeah, you see it.
Okay, great. Thank you. So good evening. This item is for a non-conforming use permit to legalize a non-conforming 120 square foot first story addition to an existing 2-story single family residence on a non-conforming parcel. A non-conforming use permit is required for development on parcels less than 3,500 square feet in size. The project parcel size is 2,500 square feet, and so requires a non-conforming use permit. Also, because the project is to legalize a non-conforming first story 120 square foot addition to an existing non-conforming single family residence, a non-conforming use permit is required. And the non-conformities that the project proposes is a 2-foot 7-inch left side yard setback where 5 feet is the minimum side yard setback required of the zoning district, and an 11-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is the required minimum rear yard setback of the zoning district. The project parcel is located at 509 Stanford Avenue in North Fair Oaks. This is near the corner of Stanford Avenue and San Mateo Avenue. And it is a 2,500 square foot lot, so 25 by 100. in dimensions, and that's shown here on the site plan. The front of the property is located on the left side of your screen. And the existing one-story house has a two-story element at the front of the building. The remaining portion of the house as it extends towards the rear yard is one story. It was built around 1957-58. The one-story addition at the rear that is being proposed under this non-conforming use permit is shown here in the blue highlight. It's at the rear of the property. The rest of the footprint of this building is existing and legal. And this is the floor plan of the first floor. So again, the left side of your screen would be the front, and the office, the proposed element of this project to be legalized is this rear office room shown here. Again, the rest of the footprint, including this bathroom, are all existing legal elements of the existing development. This shows the left side elevation. The area of the subject non-conforming use permit is at this rear here, and this just shows the rear elevation. And so again, from this rear elevation, looking forward towards the street, the right side here would be the left side actually setback, and this is the non-conformity. So it is only 2 foot 7 inches from the side property line here. And if you were looking up at the upper left illustration here, the left elevation, this is being the rear of the building at the end, and it's an 11-foot setback from the rear property line then. And these are just images of both the rear on the right side and that looking along that left side. Staff has reviewed the project relative to the applicable regulations, including the general plan and North Fair Oaks community plan. The project will continue to maintain the use as a single family residence. The general plan, North Fair Oaks community plan land use designation is medium density residential. So the project remains consistent with the land use designation. On the right side here, you'll see the S73 Development Standards. These are the zoning standards for this property and the zoning district. And as you can see, it's this minimum rear setback where 20 feet is required. And they're proposing 11 feet with that as-built addition. And the minimum side yard requirement is 5 feet. And on the left side, they're proposing a 2 foot 7 inch left side where 5 feet is required. On the opposite side of the house, there is an existing non-conforming setback of 3 foot 8 inches on the right side of the house. That's an existing non-conforming setback. And also the existing rear setback, if you were to, exclude the scope of this project, the existing rear setback is still, it's an 11-foot non-conforming setback. So at the rear, the addition would essentially is proposed to that room kind of squares out that rear portion of the house. In order to approve a non-conforming use permit, certain findings need to be made. These findings are listed here. Essentially, staff has discussed our assessment in the report to you regarding these findings. With regards to the first finding, the proposed development is proportioned to the size of the parcel on which it is built. And as I mentioned, it is a 2,500 square foot non-conforming sized parcel. The minimum parcel size in the S73 district is 5,000 square feet. But the project does comply with both the lot coverage and the floor area allowances of the S73 zoning district. So even though it has is proposing those two non-conforming setbacks, the rear and the left side, it still does maintain compliance with both the lot coverage limitation and the floor area square footage limitation for a 2,500 square foot lot. And so staff believes this the development is proportioned to the size of is appropriately proportioned to the size of the parcel. The second finding is that all opportunities to acquire additional contiguous land in order to achieve conformity with the zoning regulations currently in effect have been investigated and proven to be infeasible. All of the adjacent surrounding parcels are developed. They are separately owned, and they are all developed with single family residences. None of the surrounding adjacent parcels are much more than 5,000 square feet, which is the minimum. So even to just acquire some additional land from another parcel to increase the size of this parcel, this project parcel, would be infeasible, as any adjustments to property lot lines still has to result in conformance of the parcel that land may be taken away from. With regards to the third finding, that the proposed development is as nearly in conformance with the zoning regulations currently in effect as is reasonably possible. Staff believes, with the exception of these two non-conforming setbacks that are being requested under this use permit, staff believes that the project is as consistent with the zoning regulations as reasonably possible. The addition, it is a very small lot, and the addition does allow for some, a reasonable office addition to a residence that's on the smaller size in terms of square footage already. And the fourth finding is that the establishment, maintenance, and or conducting of the use will not, under the circumstances of the particular case, result in a significant adverse impact to coastal resources or be detrimental to public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood. And the surrounding neighborhood consists of single family residential development, just as the project parcel is used for. And this addition is a one-story addition. It is minimal in size, 120 square feet, and located at the rear of the property. So does not pose any significant impacts or adverse impacts to the public. It's not visible from public views, and the project has been reviewed by all applicable regulatory agencies, and has been conditionally recommended for approval. And the last finding for a non-conforming use permit is that the use permit approval does not constitute a granting of special privileges. And our non-conformities chapter of the zoning regulations does allow this provision for non-conforming use permit in situations similar to the situation of this project site. And so it does not prohibit other parties in similar situations to this from pursuing the same sort of exception through this non-conforming use permit application. The project has been reviewed for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and staff has determined that the project is categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guideline section 15301 class 1E for a residential addition to an existing structure where the addition will not result in an increase of more than 50% of the floor area of the structure before the addition, or 2,500 square feet, whichever is less. Again, this is only a 120 square foot addition. And so staff is here tonight with this presentation with the request that the North Fair Oaks Community Council provide a recommendation to the zoning hearing officer on the proposed non-conforming use permit. County file PLN 2022-00129. Non-conforming use permits do require a public hearing before the zoning hearing officer, and so that would be the next step. Before I conclude, I just wanted to make note that staff did receive one public comment prior to this meeting, and I'm not sure if there was time to send that to the council. So we just wanted to acknowledge that, and that comment, the public comment made these following points. That the project proposes significant deviation from the required setbacks. The commenter felt seemed to be no intent to follow required setbacks. That approval of the project tells the community it is okay to build without regard to setback requirements, as it will simply be legalized at a later date. And the public commenter had requested that the North Fair Oaks Council not recommend approval. So that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Summer. At this time, we'll take questions from council members. Questions to the, does the council have? Vice Chair Whitney, please.
I've seen the 5-foot setback in other projects from ADUs to additions. And at one point I heard that it was a non-negotiable because the fire department needs a gurney. And at the time I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then I see townhouses and I see all these other things like apartment buildings and just full of studio apartments. And it's not like they need to roll a gurney around. They're going to go in through the front and medically evacuate or do the fire prevention, whatever. I looked at Google Maps at work and I saw that all these homes are kind of built out. The homeowners are getting the maximum use of their lots. I tend to support that. I mean, they worked hard, they got what they can afford and they're trying to make the best of it. I'm curious, the person that wrote the letter objecting, do they actually live adjacent to, or are they from across town?
It was an emailed comment, and there was a name, there was no address cited. So I do not know.
Because yeah, I'm a little concerned about NIMBYs just trying to tell everyone what to do next door. Well, whatever, I'll stop talking.
Are there any other questions from council members? Councilmember Surreal.
But a concern, because several of these have come to our council and for special consideration. And you know, there are setback rules. There are certain standards that as a homeowner you have to honor, especially when you think about emergency situations like the fire, you know, like firemen are. So there is a reason that 5 feet, and 5 feet is not that wide. So to shrink it from, you know, 5 feet to 2 is worrisome for me, because I've seen emergency, you know, like, yeah, enter homes and how difficult it is when there are, you know, things in the way that has to be moved, or there's not enough room as it is standardized, when people just, you know, because we're homeowners put things there because you can. But I'm very concerned about emergency situations and allowing the people who we want to help us in emergency type situation, having that room and clearance for them to do what we want them to do.
Are there other questions from council members?
Yeah, I have a question. The setbacks that are currently in the house, based on that model, that drawing that you set back, it's basically gonna follow the perimeter of the existing house, is it not?
That is correct. It is the existing house setback on that left side is 2'7", and this would kind of fill in and just extend that the additional 6 foot 8 feet back towards the rear along
Yeah,
that
so,
left.
so the house already has that setback, so it's just gonna follow
It does.
further. Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
This has already been built without benefit of a permit, and we're being asked to legalize it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are there other questions from council members? Go ahead.
One question, thank you. Does planning department consult with, say, the fire department? In these cases where, with the space between the house and the fence is not meeting the standards or the requirements.
Yes, both building and fire, and they for situations like this, in addition to needing, such as this case, the non-conforming use permit, they will also need to, the applicant, if approved, would also need to obtain a building permit as well, and meet codes and standards through that process.
And so I guess.
They'll be held to those codes and standards.
Right, and so following up on that, so I guess in this case, the fire department was fine with that existing space, am I correct? Or did they have any objection?
Let's see. Sorry, I am just
No, that's okay.
not as familiar with the full project at the moment, but it looks like the fire department, it looks like they have not yet signed off on a conditional, have signed off on the this application. It looks like they did sign off on the previous application for non-conformities, though that did looks like include this area. Yeah, so it has, we have not received any comments from fire.
Okay, I think that's the only concern that I hear from council members. I personally know that these lots are rather narrow, so that's the reason why the homeowners try to maximize the space, because they're extremely narrow, and the houses built in them are particularly small. And I know that for working families, if that's what they can afford, it's extremely difficult for them to do anything with what they have. So I'm just putting a word for them, because I know that that is the situation in many places, as opposed to regular sized lots where there's more ample space to utilize it, etc. So I guess my last question would be, if not approved or if not supported by our council, what would the owner's alternative be? Would they have to demolish or reconstruct, resize? What would the alternatives be?
Yes, so the alternatives would be to modify it and permit it such that it does conform with the 5-foot side and 20-foot rear yard setbacks, so conformance with the zoning regulations, or they could choose to demolish that entire, unpermitted area.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council members?
Just to confirm, we're talking about 120 square feet, right?
Yes, that is correct.
I have a couple of questions. Some are, I believe you mentioned this already, but we haven't received any input or concerns from the neighbors with regard to this project.
I'm sorry, Chair Esther, was that to me?
Yes, we haven't received any input or concerns from the neighbors. Excuse me. This project.
Just the one comment that I noted at the end
And
from a member of the public.
I put my SB9 hat on this one, if you will. And I understand it's a 2,500 square foot lot. And if this building existed on a split of a 5,000 square foot lot, under SB9, it would be conforming. You can have a 2,500 square foot lot. And I believe SB9 requires like 4-foot setbacks on the side and on the rear. Is that correct?
If you give me one moment, sorry. Yes, either setbacks would for under SB9 would need to meet the zoning district minimums, the standard, zoning setbacks, or 4 feet if it's necessary to accommodate 2 800 square foot units.
Okay,
Which is what's allowed under SB9, 2 800 square foot units.
if we look at it from that perspective, then really what we're missing is 17 inches on one side of the building if this were indeed an SB9 split, which I believe we're going to be seeing in our neighborhood, splits of 5,000 square foot lots into two 2,500 square foot. So I just wanted to kind of offer that as a perspective on things that are possible in our neighborhood going forward.
And I will mention the note that, as I mentioned, the non-conforming use permit does need to go to the zoning hearing officer at a public meeting for a decision. And prior to scheduling that zoning hearing officer meeting, we would ensure that we had received comments and conditional approval from the fire district.
Just to comment on SB9, this is a narrow but long lot. As you can't split it in the middle and have it back home without a driveway or access. So this is a particular neighborhood where you're definitely not going to see SB9.
Oh, yeah.
With long narrow lots. If there's a wide lot or a deep lot together, yeah, but that's creeping gentrification.
Yeah, my point was that this was a 5,000 square foot lot that we'd split into two 2,500 parcels. Instead of 2,500 square foot.
There's no way to a long rectangle.
They would be two.
They have to have access to the street, both of them.
They would, yeah, you can do it that way. Are there other questions from the council? Do we have any public comment on this issue?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 5, consideration of your non-conforming use permit, please raise your hand on the Zoom feature or bring up your speaker card up to the book. We do not. Victor, are there any comments on the Spanish line?
Thanks. No, there's none at the moment.
Seems to be no public comment at this time. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Diana. Then at this time, I'll entertain a motion regarding the request for a non-conforming use permit for 509 Stanford Avenue.
I make the motion.
To approve.
To approve.
To approve. Do we have a second? Second by Blair. We need a roll call, Diana.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Prado,
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Rio,
No,
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz,
Yes.
Vice Chair Blair Whitney,
Yes.
Councilmember Gabriela aka Councilmember Celani Curencita,
Yes.
Chair Brooks Esser,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much, Summer.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Next agenda item is a recommendation, a request to the Board of Supervisors to support the Complete Streets project for the town of Atherton. And that presentation is going to be given by Douglas Kim, Contract Sustainability Coordinator with the town of Atherton. Douglas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, council members. Wanted to first thank you for your letter of support last meeting for bike and ped improvements that will connect El Camino with Adelante Selby. We actually going through the process, and there have been some positive comments from the county. So, you know, if that project gets funded, then students who live in North Fair Oaks will be able to cross El Camino at Selby Lane and have a protected facility to ride their bikes 1 mile to school. So fingers crossed. I'm here tonight to seek the council's support on another bike ped project, this time El Camino Real. So if you were to ride your bike from Redwood City and head south towards Menlo Park, what you would find is that you'd be riding on the shoulder of El Camino with cars often going 40, 45 miles an hour. If you wanted to walk south, good luck, there's no sidewalks. And you'd be dealing with bikes also trying to navigate the shoulder. If you want to go from Menlo Park to Redwood City, you at least have sidewalks in many places, including along North Fair Oaks, but there are not good bike facilities in this area. So what we're talking about tonight is the stretch of El Camino from Selby Lane on the north, past 5th Avenue, going all the way south to Valparaiso. And in that 1.5 mile stretch, we're touching 4 jurisdictions: Atherton, Redwood City, Menlo Park, and North Fair Oaks. Real quickly, on the west side, from Selby to Valparaiso, that is pretty much the town of Atherton on that side. And as you all know, there are no sidewalks there. The bus stops that are there are not ADA compliant, so if you're in a wheelchair, you actually can't even take the bus from there. And of course, there are no bike facilities. And tried to ride that when I was a kid. It's taking your life in your hands there. It's traffic moves fast, as you all know. Now, on the other side of El Camino, east side, from Valparaiso on the south, you don't have bike lanes, but you have a wide shoulder. And then that continues all the way up towards 5th Avenue, where again, you have sidewalks along El Camino, but again, you don't have a protected bike path. And so what we're proposing to do is something that's been in the regional and local plans for a while. That is to do something grand on the Grand Boulevard by reimagining how that 1.5 mile stretch is designed. So right now, as you know, there are 3 lanes of traffic in each direction. 2 in some places, but by and large, 3. What we want to do is something that's not very common. That is to do a road bed, El Camino. So what we would propose to do On the west side of El Camino is to convert one lane of traffic, far right side. And in that area, put in a protected bike path and a sidewalk along with bus stops that are actually ADA compliant, and build bioswales to improve drainage at all the intersections on that side of El Camino. On the other side of El Camino, which touches North Fair Oaks, what we want to do is take the wide shoulder where there's parking along much of El Camino. We want to take that and be able to build an exclusive protected bikeway on that side. The county plans in North Fair Oaks call for that to be a cycle track. And so what we want to do is proceed with some engineering studies that will figure out how to design that protected bikeway on both sides of El Camino, build a sidewalk on the west side of El Camino, and basically allow people in North Fair Oaks, for example, to ride your bike or walk south on El Camino down towards Atlanta or down towards Menlo Park. Right now, as you know, because there really are no parallel side streets, you have no choice if you want to walk or bike than to go on El Camino. This has been a long-standing gap in the system for the region for bike and pedestrian facilities, and we finally want to fix that. And so we are, we're not set on the actual specific solutions, so we're going to be working with the county staff on how the interface with North Fair Oaks happens. And we're also going to be working with 2 other cities that touch this 1.5 mile stretch of El Camino. This could be a game changer. It's very rare that you see cities, Caltrans, being willing to do a road diet to basically provide more priority for bicycles and pedestrians. And that's what we're proposing to do here. If you go to the next slide here, these are all just conceptual ideas of how you basically slow down traffic on El Camino, promote safety for bicycles and pedestrians, and green the boulevard with bioswales and other improvements that will help traffic calming on El Camino right now, which is a very fast artery. Next slide. These are some examples of some cross-section. The solutions are going to be worked out in the design process. We will be working with county staff and doing public outreach with communities like North Fair Oaks. We would come back at a more technical session for the council and talk about some challenges we see on El Camino fronting North Fair Oaks, and make sure that what we're designing meets the promise of what we're talking about here. There's a more complete street. This is the conceptual design that you all supported last meeting that would help improve the crossing for bicycles and pedestrians at Selby Lane. And I think that might be it. So we respectfully ask for the council's consideration of a letter of support to the San Mateo County TA, which has about $16 million in funding for bike and pedestrian projects. I'm going to stop there. I know you're all familiar with this part of El Camino, and see if you have any questions.
Are there any questions from council members?
Are we going to end up with, in addition to the crosswalk, the overhead lights that are hanging down, and then people will press the switch and it'll go to flashing red, then stays solid red, and one stops, and then it goes back to flashing red? And is it that? Because that's been rolling out up and down El Camino. Is that this intersection going to get one of that treatment?
Yes, they're called hot beacons. Yes, that's the plan.
Okay. We're being asked to support this specific piece of the whole Grand Boulevard initiative. Are you asking us to support the whole image of the bike lanes and the sidewalks and the rail corridor, bike path? Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yes, again, the complete street solution is 1.5 miles spread.
Additional questions from council members?
Yeah, is the city of Atherton, adding any funding to this project, or is it being asked to, the county of San Mateo to fully cover this cost?
No, the town of Atherton would be spending at least $200,000 for the design and environmental study for this project.
And what is the approximate cost of the project?
Roughly about $2 million for designing, outreach, and environmental studies.
Okay. So I'm wondering why the bike lane with the tree line is being suggested on the side of Atherton as opposed to the side of North Fair Oaks, where there's statistically more pedestrians, more bicycle traffic.
Those were just conceptual ideas. Nothing has been committed to. In fact, I had a conversation with county staff who really do want to see a cycle track as opposed to, a traditional class 1 bike path where you have that wind, that berm. So we're going to work with county staff to make sure that what we do in that part of North Fair Oaks on El Camino lines up with what the community wants and what the county.
Councilman Vice Chair Whitman.
I went to the Grand Boulevard launch like a decade ago, and Atherton was like a dead zone in this plan for a Grand Boulevard of dense housing and commercial. And I've seen it turn into reality, like in San Carlos and Redwood City and now Menlo Park, but it's still a dead zone as far as a contribution to housing and commercial activity. So you're talking about doing something, which is nice. I'm a bicyclist. I've taken the train and gotten off in Menlo Park and walked along there. I've ridden my bike and encountered your trenching equipment that left weird holes for your fiber optics that didn't have good signage, and my bike tire got in it, and it was unfortunate, but it's overdue that public access to the state highway be improved. And it's a corridor because there's a lot of working folks that need to come up that corridor, and it's the east side closest to the Menlo Park train station and North Fair Oaks that you'll see bicyclists and pedestrians. And on the west side, you'll see some people cross the street to catch a bus going down to Palo Alto or other places. Well, no, I see people biking when I'm going to work. I bike on that side if I can get over across all the traffic. Yeah. All right, that's all I got.
Additional questions from council members? Councilmember.
So right now there's there's 3 and 3, right? 3 lanes of traffic going on each way. So it's like cutting 1 lane of traffic off at each side, correct? Wow, okay, so definitely gonna have like a traffic study report, right? Because I'm thinking about the 8 o'clock traffic, which I'm a part of, and it's like, yeah, I can definitely sleep, that's, so what we already know, but it is what it is. But I support pedestrians. I see pedestrians and bikers all the time. It is dangerous, and anything to provide safety. These are working people. They have to go to school, they have to get to work, and we have to make sure that safety is priorities.
Additional questions from council members?
We need streetlights too. It's really dark and unsafe along that corridor.
Interesting. Okay.
And lots of overhanging trees. It's kind of like they don't want you walking along their stretch of El Camino.
Well, you obviously bike that whole stretch. You're not just talking about near 5th Avenue. You're talking about
That's the whole stretch. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Absolutely.
Any more questions from council members? Do we have any public comment?
During this time, members of the public, if you wish to comment on agenda item number 6, request Board of Supervisors support for complete streets project, please raise your hand, hand feature on Zoom, or bring your speaker part up to the clerk. I do see one hand raised. Kent, we will grant you the access to speak. When you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you for your presentation. The North Fair Oaks R1 neighborhood adjacent to East Selby Lane supports the road diet from Menlo Park to Redwood City through North Fair Oaks, specifically for the reasons outlined, pedestrian and bike safety. For this, we truly thank you for this initiative. Regarding the intersection at East Selby Lane and El Camino that had a concept design approved at the last North Fair Oaks Community Council meeting, I would like to point out that the county itself, as in Public Works, has not presented this idea to the R1 neighborhood adjacent to that intersection on the east side of El Camino Real. Why this is really important for the county of San Mateo to include this R1 neighborhood gone by the name of Selby Park and on political maps, Dunbarton Oaks, is that early meetings about this intersection were very Atherton centric. And there were some issues that were missed by the county representatives at those meetings on how it would affect this R1 neighborhood, specifically cut through traffic as a result of what signals or changes occurred at that. So this is a request to make sure that the county involves the neighborhoods adjacent. Thank you.
Thanks that Doug made this evening. A request that the board support Atherton's Complete Street Gap Closure Project, in particular their pursuit of funding for this project. This time, I would entertain a motion to approve the draft letter to the board.
Before we move on to a motion, can I ask another question? And this is in regards to the comment, the public comment. And so that made me wonder if there are any North Fair Oaks residents involved in the planification process of this plan.
There will be. If we get the funding to do more design studies, then we will be doing outreach again, coming back to the council, making sure that we involve and incorporate the county, because that's again one of the 4 jurisdictions along this border. We want to get support of all.
Right, but you're already presenting a draft. And if I'm understanding correctly, there was no participation of North Fair Oaks residents in it. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to make it a point to include residents of North Fair Oaks, as part of the conversation and planification, or one of the members of the council.
Oh, absolutely. When we get into very specific ideas about how to deal with the design, this part of El Camino, that part of El Camino, we would love to work with the council to figure out how to reach out to the public to get their ideas about this area.
So correct me if I'm wrong, that at this point, what Atherton's doing is saying it's requesting funding to do the study. As part of the study, that will be the community input and things like that will help determine what the ultimate solution looks like.
That's correct. We would, once we get the funding to do the study, we would sit down with each of the 4 jurisdictions, then with other public bodies like the council, and begin to think about how we're going to figure out how to get from here with actual design and getting support from the parents, the county.
Anybody? Motion to approve the letter. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Do we have a second? I'll second. Thank you very much. We need a roll call.
Councilmember Juan Carlos Bravo.
Yes.
Councilmember Beatriz Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Everardo Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Jennifer Ruiz.
Yes.
Vice Chair Blair Whitney.
Yes.
Councilmember Silvani Benítez. Chair Pro Tem.
Yes. Thank you very much. Last agenda item is report out. Report, I believe we have Maggie on the line.
Good evening, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you. Sorry, we're having a little tech difficulties, but we could hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just have just 2 quick items. I want to thank Kent for sharing some comments on the Healthy Community Mural. And just to also share some additional comments, if you haven't filled out the survey, or if you could help us spread the word on the survey, that'd be great. It will be closing down on September 30th. And right now we're just trying to get as much input as possible. So make sure to fill those surveys out. And then the other item that I wanted to touch base on is the North Fair Oaks Community Plan. The county is working on hiring a consultant that will be reviewing the North Fair Oaks Community Plan. And I believe that there will be an item presented to the Board of Supervisors by the end of September. We'll have more information then on how this process is moving forward. And yeah, I think that's all for tonight. Did someone say something? I believe everyone's muted or.
No, we were trying to see if anyone from the county executive's office is on.
Oh, okay, great, thanks.
I don't believe we have anyone from it. Council members' reports. Vice Chair, do you have a report?
No report.
Council member Prado.
Other than just congratulate all the efforts for the Mural Road Festival, especially Brooke, you put on some really long hours from the morning till late in the evening, so thank you for your leadership on that. Right, but a good turnout.
That's a terrific day. Anything else, Juan Carlos? Council member Rodriguez.
Not much. Also, I also participated in the festival, but in different table. So I didn't have that much time to do my unfortunately share the gift with the council. Apologies for that. And that's the extent of it.
Council member Surreal.
No, I was at the town. I returned the day after.
Any other report? Councilmember Ruiz, Jennifer, you have a report out this evening?
No report today.
Gabrielle is here. Councilmember Currencita, Molly, you have a report. Lolly? Can you hear us, Lolly? I'm gonna go ahead and mention that as part of my report.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go. Please go
All
ahead.
right.
Lolly. I was gonna steal your thunder, but you jumped back in, so go right ahead.
Awesome. Wait, hold on. I can't hear. Hold on. I heard like half of that. Okay, hold on. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, we can
Please go
hear
ahead.
you.
We can hear you.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Savali, we could hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Be having an issue, or is it okay? It's on our side then. I think both. We'll see if we can get some Molly. I'll go ahead and do a report. Yeah, I wanted to thank the members of the council who attended the community festival. It was a great opportunity to meet with residents. The event itself, I thought, was terrific. The music and dance productions were just really, really great. Very good. It's a very nice day with a lot of local flavor to it. Most of the people that I talked to came to it, which is exactly what we were looking for. Kind of this first return to having the community festival. So thanks to everyone who came out and supported it. The nominating committee was completed interviews and made a recommendation for supervisors for 3 new council members. I believe that's going to be on the agenda for the January 13th board meeting. So replacing some of our members is proceeding. And I'll go ahead and announce we're losing council member Currencita. Lolly is heading on to receive her life.
All right.
Okay.
Everything works, right? Okay, hold on, because it was very choppy, but I think we're okay now.
Go ahead and talk about your grants, Lolly. I just mentioned that you're leaving.
Yeah, okay, so really quick for my reports. I went to the North Oaks Community Festival. It was beautiful. I feel like the community needed it. It was the right time to do it, and it was so beautifully done. So thank you to everybody who helped organize, etc. And then a shout out to the community. It was really fun. It was really hot, but it was great. But yeah, this is gonna be my last meeting. I'm off to UC Irvine, so it was such a great opportunity to meet everybody and to just have this experience to help me overall, grow throughout my adulthood. And I'm really sad to leave. I really hope I didn't have to, but I will. But my time in Redwood City, North Fair Oaks, my story isn't over yet here. I'll be back. So TBD. Thank you so much, everybody.
Well,
That's
thank
it.
you very much, Lolly, for your service and your contributions, and enjoy college. That's all I can say. I'm sure you're really, really looking forward to it. That's terrific. With that, let's see. Thank you tonight to our presenters, to the public who attended this evening. As always, thanks to our county staff. We had Emma, Victor, Kenny, Diana, Justin, Tim, Josh and Jenny and Megan for their support. Our next council meeting is going to be a study session on September 15th, 2022. We are going to receive the housing inventory, its contribution to the housing element update of the county plan. So this is going to be a presentation where county is going to come to us and say, this is where we believe we can put housing to meet our arena goals that we're going to have in the neighborhood over the next 8 years. Many hundreds of units. It's going to have a real impact on our community. I am really looking forward to seeing what the county is up with as far as preliminary plans. That is our next meeting on the 15th of September. with that, the council chair, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.